Did you know that your parents have a Big Bang Theory board game?
No.
Did you know there was a board game?
No.
Man, I'm learning stuff. We should play.
People
Like your parents clearly got their like they got their pandemic copy of Pandemic. So
I
they
gave that to them
You
for
did?
Christmas in 2019.
Oh, you got
so
it.
right before the pandemic.
Yeah, right before it was like unavailable for like a year.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's funny because there's that thing going on in China, and then it ruined everyone's lives in the world for a year and a half. Oops. Was that in poor taste? Was that too soon?
Too soon.
Welcome to Subject to Blackout. My name is Timo, and with me, as always, is Michael Marshall from Name Taken Podcast. And today we are doing week 2 of the Furiously Fast Film Fest. This week, Mike and I watched both 2006's Tokyo Drift and 2009's Fast and Furious. Mike, what'd you think of our films this week?
Well, I didn't like it.
Ooh.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like either?
No.
Okay.
I thought that Tokyo Drift had like a better setting and backdrop where it seemed like they tried.
Yeah.
But I had issues with both movies that took me out of the experience.
So I gotta say, I am pretty much of the opinion that Fast 1, 2, and 4 are all pretty much at the same level for me, and I like different aspects of all of them, and I hate different aspects of all of them. I really enjoyed Tokyo Drift a lot. And it had nothing to do with the main character, who is played by Lucas Black, who I think the accent that he's doing is just his accent. So,
yeah, what was that? Took me out of the entire movie. I was like, how did Japanese people understand that guy?
Yeah, I hate that accent, but I think that's how that guy talks. But it's real bad. I mean, they literally were like, this is the guy who looks closest to Paul Walker, so we're gonna go with him. And they're like, the thick, weird Southern accent isn't a problem for you. They're like, nah.
I mean, here's the thing: is like the accent is challenging, but him looking like he's 30 is also challenging. So like for the first 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, is he doing some kind of like Hi Fellow Kids undercover sting operation in a high school? Like there's like the point where he's like he's getting like dressed down by the police.
Yeah.
And like a woman arrives and I'm like, oh, that's his wife. Oh, that's his mom. You're like the same age.
Did you notice? So that's after he gets arrested for street racing the jock. Did you notice who the jock was?
He was that dude from Home Improvement.
He was that dude from Home Improvement.
Also, that dude is canceled. That guy got Me Too.
Ooh, did not know that. I
did.
did little background research on both of these movies. But yeah, like my second note on this movie is that Brad from Home Improvement?
That was Brad. Hashtag Me Too, but JTT still safe.
JTT forever.
Did not sexually assault anybody.
So far. Let's not go on record and say that he's purely innocent. Let's just go.
He's
so
fine.
far.
He's fine.
So I'm about to start getting directly into Tokyo, but I want to talk a little bit more about just initial reactions to the two films. I think the reason Tokyo Drift works so well for me is because, and this is not an original idea, I'm sure, but it is a sports movie.
Yeah.
In that, guy has to transfer schools, thinks he's hot shit, turns out he's not, has to work real hard with, some, lovable scamps to get better at it, and then challenges the bully and wins in the end and gets the girl. Like, it is a sports movie.
Yeah, it's that South Park episode with the downhill skiing.
Yeah.
Stand Dorsch.
Stand Dorsch. Yeah. So fortunately, like, what I appreciate about that is they found a movie formula that they could just stick cars into, and that works for me. I also really like Sung Kang's Han. He's constantly eating food, and
he was fun.
Is quiet and mysterious, but he's charming in a way that helps carry this movie past how Lucas Black fumbles because he stinks.
Man, yeah, God, he sucks. Like, it's the soundtrack totally rules. The concept of the movie is kind of sweet. Like, Tokyo, super busy, everyone's living on top of each other. They're not just doing like speed races. They're like in tight spaces doing drift stuff. Rad.
And it makes sense because also, like, Tokyo is surrounded by mountains, and they're like, people started to do this on mountains to see who could get down the fastest, and that's where drifting. It's like, okay, there's a whole...
All that made sense.
Yeah, there's a whole universe here and backstory that feels earned.
Yeah, exactly. That was great. I loved that. And then, like, they do a pretty good job of like emphasizing kind of like Tokyo youth subcultures and stuff. That was kind of sweet. Like, there were like kind of mod dudes and like Gengoro like girls with Gengoro makeup and stuff. Like, it was good. It was like pretty legit for where they were spending time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, Lucas Black, man, he really sucks. And then so he again, 30-year-old man. But he's like 17 in the movie. He's like, he just gets to like Japan, the deeply repressed and structured nation of Japan. There just is like down to accept this random dude where it's like, well, you've caused a lot of damage from street racing. So either you're going to go to a prestigious school in Japan or you're going to go to jail. And Japan's like, yeah, we'll take him. That was like never gonna happen.
Well,
and
his dad
and he learns Japanese. When does he learn Japanese?
Maybe he's visited his dad a lot and he knows Japanese. I don't fucking know.
He knows, like, I don't know when he learns, because at the beginning when he walks in, he's like, "Oh, domo arigato, Mr. Obado. I don't know anything." And then by the end of the movie, he's like walking in to like talk to Yakuza dudes and like speaking Japanese. Like, what the fuck happened?
But
like, how long has he been in Japan?
Talking to Yakuza dudes in a thick, weird Southern accent, where he's like, like you said, like, domo mo arigato,
namaste, y'all.
Konnichiwa. I just want to race for that girl over there. Yeah, it was. The accent,
was that an international school?
But I can't be mad at him because I have also seen him. He plays the Dodgers' second baseman in the Jackie Robinson film 42, and he talks exactly like this. So I think that's just how he talks, but it feels like a fake put on accent, and it is very distracting. Like, if this movie had anyone other than that guy, like if you put like young handsome guy with like just a modicum of charisma in that role, this movie's great.
Any of the other actors I think were way more compelling. Like, this is one of those movies that I watch where I'm like, you know what? I don't give a shit what happens to anybody. I've decided I'm not emotionally invested in anybody's success or failure. It's like watching a sports game, and like they're two, like they're not even inside your division. They're like two complete. It's like watching a game on ESPN Classic. You're just kind of like, all right, well, something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I've got another hour, so yeah. Like I said, everything, the setting, a lot of the supporting cast rocked.
Yeah.
Soundtrack totally ruled. I thought that just the main character was so uninspired that it offended me and my sensibilities as a member of the audience. To say, I don't know why everyone is drawn to this person who I'm not even drawn to at all.
That's fair enough. That is a very valid point for not liking this film, but for whatever reason, I just liked the rest of it. That I was just like, I compartmentalized him and just went like, pretend it's Keanu. Like, just pretend it's someone who's much better at this, but, still not a great actor. Just, put somebody else there in your mind. And I was able to, and normally I can't do this. Normally I feel like something like this would ruin it for me. But I think the car stuff was really fun. There's a lot of cool car sequences. I loved how often he just was smacking into stuff in the first couple of races that he did.
People were just like chill with
like he's hitting other people's cars and they're like, oh snap. It's like, no, that's like 3,000.
Yeah, that's my car, dude.
That's $3,000 worth of like body work that you now have to do.
That's like millions of yen. Yeah. That's like so many yen.
It's all the fucking yen. Fortunately, they're all Yakuza, so it's fine. But no, let's talk briefly before we get into a little bit of a deeper dive into Tokyo Drift. Let's talk a little bit about Fast and Furious. This is the return of the main cast, and pretty early on, it is made clear that this is in fact a prequel to Tokyo Drift, because Han is alive.
Oh, I thought like this movie just brings back people when it wants to.
Correct.
Like the series. I assumed it was like a sequel and they're like, oh, he got out of the fire.
No, that's the one that
Psych.
That's the one that comes out at the end of this month, Mike. That's what happens. No, he has not died in Fast and Furious. He is in fact not gone to Tokyo yet.
Okay.
They retconned this into being a prequel because Han was the only good, likable character.
He was fun
from the third movie.
Yeah,
and they're like,
let's just use him for 10 minutes. Make the rest of the movie boring.
So actually, the Han character, this is interesting. The director of Tokyo Drift and a couple of the other movies since, Justin Lin, actually one of his first movies or his first movie had Sung Kang in it, playing this guy who drove a cool fast car and was named Han. And so when he got Fast and the Furious 3 Tokyo Drift, he just took that character and put it in the Fast and the Furious series. Okay. So this is actually his second appearance in Tokyo Drift. And then he, as Lin comes back to the series, in fact, I believe he's directing the one that's coming out later this month, he keeps making Han more of a main character because it's a personal favorite of his. So the Han character is cool for a reason. It's because he wasn't made by some hack director to just be a random guy in the series. He was already a thing. So there's clearly love for that character in this movie.
So after watching the initial sequence and then a few things after the initial credits, one of the questions that I had was how many people go see these movies and then are complete assholes and peel out and just kill the whole family after watching this movie. And it turns out I'm not the only person that's asked that question.
Yeah.
So this is the result of my impression from this movie. I'm pretty sure that I Googled Fast and Furious reckless driving, and this is what I discovered. So there's a bunch of articles, but this is from Vice, and I'm just going to read from the middle. The release of each new movie in the franchise provides a natural experiment for researchers who use detailed traffic violation data from Montgomery County, Maryland, to examine all 192,892 speeding tickets issued from 2012 to 2017. So the time frame includes release weekends for the 3 most recent Fast and Furious movies. Researchers analyze the average miles per hour over the speed limit drivers were charged with on a given day. So check it out. The 3 weekends before the Fast and Furious movies debuted and the 3 weekends afterwards, the average mile per hour increase they found people speeding was 20%. So following the opening of a Fast and Furious movie, the average speeding went up by about 20%. And then researchers also found that rates of extreme speed increased. So while outside of Fast and Furious movie debuts, very few drivers are charged with driving more than 40 miles per hour over the speed limit, after the release of a movie, That's about 2% of all violations. And it increases the closer you get to a movie theater. People go see these movies.
So what you're saying is Fast and the Furious is unsafe at any speed.
It is. There needs to be a disclaimer like, listen,
don't Paul Walker yourself.
Don't go out like a bitch like Paul Walker.
I mean, he
like
went
Paul
on
Walker
top driving a car he wasn't equipped to drive. So, he died doing what he loved, crashing into a pole.
Yeah, he did. So basically, after watching Fast and Furious 4, I was like, wow, this is just like encouraging stupid people to just like really be stupid and just be like weapons behind the wheel of a car. And it turns out, research suggests.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is if we're going to get into a little bit of Fast and the Furious 2009, that movie was a real stinker because it wanted to be like a drug running cocaine thriller with cars, but it was boring, and they killed a main character off screen and then showed her dying later, which made no fuck. Just show it to me first,
right? Instead
of Dom like magically putting it together because there was some yellow shit on the ground.
Yeah, what was that Aragorn shit?
I don't know.
Like, since when can he like solve crimes like a fucking elf?
Mike, these movies are going to become superhero films real fast. The Rock is going to be introduced in the next movie, and at that point, he's Superman. So, no, so like 4 just was kind of boring and dull, and it had the same problem that 1 had and that the 4 had. Is that the characters aren't good people, so why am I rooting for them?
Yeah,
like,
they
Dom
suck.
Toretto is still a bad guy.
Yeah,
he redeems himself a little bit at the end of this movie, but the movie basically opens up with them committing a giant crime just so they could get some money to have a party
in a foreign country.
Yeah, that's super fucked up. And throughout the movie, that like. Yeah, Dom is basically working as a double agent for himself, so he's not really helping the bad guys, but like, they open up the film with him committing a crime, and I don't understand why they think I want to root for criminals.
Yeah, and why do American law enforcement agencies keep bringing in Paul Walker?
They love him. They just can't get enough of him. He just knows too much about cars.
Man, that is some like white privilege right there, where it's like, I'm sorry. And they're like, well, you're going to be in the FBI this time. And he's like, oh, no.
Yeah, I thought that was a little odd. All right. With all that said, let's do a deep dive into Tokyo Drift first. I will start off by saying the murdering of an Indian imagery at the football rally was
weird.
Uncomfortable. A little unsettling. There was a lot of it. You could have picked any mascot. Why did you pick a Native American mascot? That was very uncomfortable. And then immediately one of these high schoolers just offers herself as the prize in this race between Brad from Home Improvement and
no one asked for that. You did not have to do that.
Yeah,
you're just like offering yourself to this 30-year-old man.
Yeah, it was, well, he's not supposed to be 30, so it's less creepy than you're making it, but...
it was still creepy, yeah.
I didn't have... my brother had old man face at an early age, so this did not bother me nearly as much as it did you. I just know some people look old. Like, it happens.
It was weird.
We also have... some solid Kid Rock action in this one. We had Limp Bizkit a couple movies ago. We've had Ja Rule. Now we had Kid Rock. Like, we're just assembling like a scumbag cinematic universe of musical artists in this series.
Yeah, it's really trying to appeal to Trump voters and Dave Matthews Band enjoyers. So then, so he has a race through a housing complex or like a construction
like new housing
thing, and has the option of either going to jail or being sent to a prestigious high school full of extremely wealthy people in Japan.
Yeah.
And guess what he chooses?
prison? Did he choose prison?
He doesn't.
Ooh. Yeah, I just have in my notes, boy, I hope they explain why he's forced to go to Japan. Because he's just all of a sudden in Japan instead of in jail. And they don't immediately go like, hey, your father lives here. Like, he walks around Japan for a minute. And I was like,
okay.
Like, you're going to live with your father is literally all you have to say to set up that next scene. But, yeah. Also, I thought his mom was, like, gonna, like, take him upstate to a farm and drop him off. Because he's like, where are we moving to now, Mom? And she's like, we aren't moving anywhere. Like, what? Like, he's your child. He's 17, according to this movie. Like, you have to take care of him. What are you talking about? But no, he's going to live with his Navy stationed in Japan dad, I guess. Must be wealthy because he's sending his kid to what looks like a very extremely expensive school.
Super fancy, like full on anime uniforms. But again, like, is it an international school? Are all the classes in Japanese? How do you just sort of like send away your transcripts and get accepted to like a highly prestigious private school in a foreign country like that?
They needed to meet their white boy quota.
What was his name in the movie? It was something stupid, right? It was like Kevin, Brian,
Sean Boswell.
Sean. Yes. Sean.
My notes.
The thing is, like, there's a lot of really cool kind of car racing. This is what we're gonna say for every single movie. Spoiler. There's a lot of really cool car race scenes, or like a really great choreographed car fu, and then like in between that, there's like plot, and it's like not really plot. It's kind of like, yo, I'm just like, it's like, let me tell you why I'm like watching porn right now. Like, I've got 5 minutes and I want to see some cars and I want to see some blowjobs. I do not want to see character development. Like, I do not care why there's a pizza there. I don't care who's cleaning the pool. Just want to see somebody drift. Just want to see somebody get blown, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, but these movies are going to do plot in between car scenes because car action scenes are expensive. So you're only going to get like 2 or 3 good ones. I thought there were much more practical work the fucking action scenes in the fourth one were just like, hey, what if we make a CGI tunnel and run CGI cars through it, and then we'll have CGI explosions? And it's like, okay, like, did you not see the last movie where they were doing cool, like, practical drift stuff? Like, yeah, there was CGI stuff too, but like, they were actually like drifting up those like parking garages and shit. Like, that, just do that. You don't have to have a bullshit tunnel with like a garage door on it. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, belaying my own point is just like, that's what I preferred about 3 over the rest of the movies, is that the plot, they just went like, hey, like I said, let's do a sports movie and we'll just make this guy get better, and that will be his plot development. He doesn't have to be like, in the other movies, it's just like Dom had his girlfriend killed, so now he's mad. Or, Paul Walker likes Dom, so he's going to let him get away with like felonies for no reason. Like, they were like, no, let's just have him get better at a thing, and that will be his character development, is he's now better at things. And that worked for me, because that was simple and just like a good sports movie where you're just waiting for like a climactic event. That's all I wanted out of that film, and that's all I got. And that was one of the reasons, that and Han and the setting. I really liked the Japan setting. They did it well. They really, I felt like, knocked that one out of the ballpark.
Yeah, like I said, I love the setting, love the soundtrack. Heard some Shonen Knife in the background occasionally. It was great. And I mean, like, a lot of that is like pretty authentic. Like running around in the basements of these buildings through like kind of different tiny club spaces. Like, that's real. Like, a lot of the really busy intersections around like Shibuya and stuff, like all of those settings were like totally legit. It just happened to be that they chose like the most unimpressive possible person to occupy those spaces. Yeah. I mean, I think like I see where you're going with the sports movie thing too, and I mean in the middle they do use like the montage convention in order to have him learn how to drift really really quickly in a short period of time. They could have at least had him crack a book and listen, like learn some goddamn Japanese, like in that
true.
montage.
That's true.
They didn't even have him just be like.
So it wasn't, yeah, because then you're both training to get better at the racing style of the local culture, and you're just getting immersed in the local culture. Yeah, that makes a better movie. That's not just he's getting better; he's also developing himself.
Yeah. Except that like he doesn't really seem like he experiences any growth, or I don't care. Like I don't care.
His growth.
Does he come back?
His growth. I don't think he's ever back.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think his growth is just that he got better. I think that's it.
Yeah. First of all, also like if you're in Japan and
he's
you're
a
like
terrible character.
Yeah, he sucks as a character. If you're in Japan, like. The Yakuza is not going to be like Japan's like not super down with like letting foreigners into stuff, and like not even sort of like, oh, but he's like a special magical foreigner. Like like he probably wouldn't be drifting with these people. He'd be drifting with like a lot of burnout Australians, like in some like a much more lame place. He'd be allowed to watch.
The girl was an Australian, so there you go.
Yeah, like no one would be fighting over like some random Australian girl. Like. At least, like, a Japanese Yakuza guy would not be like, oh, I want this foreigner. Like, that was unrealistic, according to, like, the pretty typical racial politics of Japan. But, I don't understand why he had to be in this movie at all, to be perfectly honest. Like, why did this foreigner have to show up and then, like, 3 weeks later, he was, like, the greatest drifter ever?
Well, because, Mike, it's 2006. We can't have no male white leads. We have to have one of them.
It's a tough thing about this series because on one hand, like...
That was sarcasm, by the way. Don't cancel me.
You're so canceled. It's like, because the thing is, in all of the movies so far, you have noticeably more non-white cast members than you do in, like, pretty much any other movie. But you still have like a one Paul Walker in there, just like, God, just being, thank God. R.I.P. Rest in power.
Rest in park.
Burn.
Because he killed himself. Yeah, sorry, I derailed that. No, I these movies are surprisingly diverse from the beginning. You know, if you count Dom Vin Diesel as a minority, because even he doesn't know what he is, it sounds like, from what we've read. But he identifies himself as a person of color, and we've had a different rapper in every single iteration of this. We had Bow Wow. We had Ludacris, and we had what's his fucking name?
Bow Wow?
No, the first guy.
Ja Rule.
Yeah, we had Ja Rule. So we had a hip hop artist in all three of the first three films.
Yeah.
I don't think we got one in the fourth one. I certainly don't remember it. But you know, so we've had that. We had Dom. Letty appears to be Hispanic. Or Latina.
Mm-hmm. Latinx. Canceled.
I'm just trying. We've had a lot of characters of color.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie, it holds on to, with white knuckles, the cis male white lead.
Yeah, like, I don't want to be this person that like self-flagellates like every time a white dude is like stage center, but these are like such obvious and uncompelling white dudes that are just there. They're just there. Yeah. So like as we're talking about Tokyo Drift, literally everything that we're talking about that was really charming and charismatic about this movie was just everything surrounding the main character. Like I almost feel like he's like this pillar in the middle like an art gallery, and we're trying to look around it in order to actually look at the things that we want to enjoy. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, so I don't know if it's because he's a white dude, but like his lack of contribution is obvious. And like, I guess I'm left with just sort of asking, like, why would you create such a non-contributing character? And that's where I'm digging in, like, do we need just like a white guy out there?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is an obstructed view seat at Wrigley. You're sitting behind a pillar, and you can't see all the game. But if you're willing to do the work, you can enjoy the game. But I would not begrudge anyone who doesn't want to sit behind a pole at a baseball game. So I get it, and your points are totally valid. And
fuck you.
I can see in a different universe where I think I don't like Han as much as I really enjoyed him in this movie.
Oh yeah, I liked him. Yeah,
he was so charming that it was just enough for me to ignore the poll. But I totally get it if you don't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting too, because you're not one to ignore the poll.
Usually not. I was charmed.
Penis.
Yeah. Oh, no. You're a dick. All right. With that, you piece of shit, let's take a quick little break while you sort your life out. You homophobe. You're so canceled. And we'll be right back.
Hey, I didn't say it was wrong. I just said that like you like penises.
You made it sound like a bad thing. And
I think it's great. Like, you can look at, I think it's great that you like to look at penises. I think it's awesome. Like, just like, I'm so supportive of how you look at penises that like sometimes I'll see a penis and I'll be like, oh my God, do you know who would love that? Tim. Because Tim likes penises.
All right.
That's how supportive I am.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. You fucking asshole.
Yeah, dude.
All right. Like I said, we are going to take a quick little break here and be right back to talk about 2009's Fast and Furious. Here's what's coming up on Subject to Blackout. Folks, life's simple. You make choices and you don't look back. And that's why Mike and I are doing the Furiously Fast Film Fest. All throughout June, Subject to Blackout is being taken over by Dom, Han, Letty, and the gang as we binge all of the Fast and the Furious movies in anticipation of the release of Fast 9 in theaters and on HBOMax on the 25th of June. Mike and I are going to be seeing most of these films for the first time, so we're going to do what we do best. We improvise, alright? Listen, Mike and I don't have friends. We got family. And they're not that interested in us either, so we're deep diving a much beloved but very missed by us film franchise. All you know by now that I live my life a podcast at a time, and I know it don't matter if you pod for a minute or an hour. Pod is pod. So join us, won't you, as we watch 2 movies every week in June as we try to close the gap before Fast 9 crosses the finish line. All right, Mike. The other film that we watched this week is Fast and Furious, the 2009 return to the main cast of Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Jordana Brewster, and Michelle Rodriguez. We also add Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, to the scene. Gal Gadot weighs 8 pounds in this movie.
She does, yeah.
She does not look fantastic. I mean, she's a very beautiful woman, but considering what she looks like in the Wonder Woman films, where she's got some muscle and some heft to her, and not that she's a big girl by any stretch of the imagination.
Ooh, Tim, be careful.
She looks very unhealthy in this film. She looks concerning in this film.
I don't know. There was a whole scene where she just like nips out, and I thought that was very cool.
I believe in my notes I just have wonder nips. Right here. Wonder nips.
That means there was somebody, like, it wasn't her. There was like a stagehand who had to just like go out there between takes and be like, boop boop boop.
Hey buddy, you awake?
Just like flick those nips and then just be like, all right.
Just a couple ice cubes, whatever you gotta do. I thought her character was underdeveloped, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's really rad. She was totally underutilized.
She comes back in the series, I think a few more times. And she's great as well. She was great as Wonder Woman in the first Woman movie, and then she's fine as Wonder Woman in that terrible second
Oh
Wonder Woman
God,
movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I really
Oh,
just
boy.
want to enjoy how good of a movie Wonder Woman was.
Then
I don't want to
Wonder
tarnish
Woman,
it.
because there is
Wonder
so
Woman's
much
great.
where you're just like, wait, is what's happening? Because that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Is there a Snyder cut?
There will be in 3 years when
Good.
they release 2 more terrible movies.
Good.
There is one delightful scene where she basically gets an invisible plane in the second one, and that's kind of cute. But everything else about that movie is dumb and bad. So this movie opens up doing things that I don't like seeing, which is like CGI cars and shaky camera, and you can't really tell what's going on.
Yep.
And that's not good. Again, they're immediately committing a crime. That's not like they're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor or something. They're just like
stealing with just a poor man with an iguana.
Yeah, they're just assholes, and they almost kill that guy, and they almost kill themselves. And
for what?
And I'm like, again, I don't like these people. Like, Dom is a charismatic character, and when he was being like played as though he's the good guy, but is being treated as a bad guy, and he's being framed, but then it turns out he just was the bad guy. Like, make me like these characters. Make Dom a good guy. Make him doing crimes for the right reasons.
Yeah, fun. No way.
Gone in 60 seconds. This shit.
Do you know who needs to be in these movies? Nicolas Cage.
He might be by the time we're done with this.
Wouldn't it, dude? National Treasure, Fast and Furious crossover. Wait, oh my God!
No. Gone in 60 seconds. No, Gone in 60 seconds.
No, this is way better. Vin Diesel has to help Nicolas Cage steal the Declaration of Independence.
No. They do that, but it's with the character from Gone in 60 Seconds. So it's just a winking nod.
No, because then, like, where's John Voight going to be? We need John Voight.
We don't need John Voight. Have you seen John
Voight's
Voight's Twitter account?
No one needs John.
And Angelina Jolie doesn't need John Voight.
Dude, yeah, like that's the only place that this franchise can go. And National Treasure. It saves 2 franchises. It allows Disney Plus to like just take this shit over.
What are you talking about? We don't need to save National Treasure. They're making a 3rd one.
Are they?
Yeah.
God, I hope so. I hope it involves Vin Diesel.
Okay, so we were talking about a couple of things that I don't like about the way this movie was produced,
right?
With like shaky cam and CGI,
right?
And another thing is, and this is to all movies ever, stop shooting day for night.
Yeah,
stop doing it. Stop doing it. It never looks good.
No,
it clearly looks like you just put a giant blue filter on your film.
Yep. Stop.
Just shoot at night. Or don't fucking shoot at night.
That seems like something too that in the digital era, someone just made that type of decision in post, which is like a really stupid time to make major decisions like that anyway.
Because you go from these like overhead shots or like these outdoor shots of like Dom and the crew, and everything's blue, and then you go to something that's actually filmed at night or on a soundstage to look like night, and they look completely fucking different.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And every time I see it, it just makes me, like, as a filmmaker, know the limitations of the medium that you work in. And if something looks bad and is noticeable, like, all of the time, don't do it. Find a workaround. It bugs the fuck out of me.
No, you're right. I agree with you.
I do love that this movie early on acknowledges that even Paul Walker doesn't know why he let Dom go at the end of the first movie.
I love that. I love that they like. I even feel like it was so just kind of hemmed in there that they didn't even think about it in the initial right. They were like, "Oh shit," because it's like, "Yo, I had a question. Why'd you do that?" And he's like, "I don't know." And you're like, "Okay, oh okay, well that's it. All
right, Paul. In this next scene, we're just gonna have you riff. Why'd you let him out? Oh, fuck. And that's how much effort Paul Walker put into that character.
And then like trip hop starts playing. Yeah.
It was super gross also in the beginning parts of this film where Paul Walker is like mashing up 3 impounded cars to make his new car.
Yeah.
Which again, he puts the fucking driver's seat on the opposite side of the car, and why does he keep doing that? It's not English.
Also, it's just like so cool of the FBI to be like, yeah, just use our resources to soup up your own car just for the afternoon. Don't worry about it.
Well, and then it just turns into a castor oil advertisement because they're all just like putting in oil in the car as though that's an exciting thing to see when someone's working on a car. Is like, oh yeah, show me the scene where he puts oil into the car. You know, that thing you do every 3,000 miles.
Yeah, he was also, did you see drinking the NOS energy drink?
Yeah.
Man, he's really committed. He's really committed to the community.
He's committed to those brands.
Yeah.
The first scene, they show all this action-packed stuff, and I thought, okay, like they got this one, and then they're gonna have like their end big scene. They kill off Letty off screen, and I go, oh well, I guess they just didn't feel like they had a budget for another big car crash. And then they go to the funeral, which who is in the casket? Because she comes back, so she's not in the casket. So who is in the casket? Letty's not dead. Sorry for spoilers.
That's again. How did we know this is a prequel? How did we know they just didn't like bring Han back too?
Han stuff is implied.
Yeah, I mean a lot of things have been implied. They do a lot of retconning.
We're in 4, and they're already retconning quite a bit.
Yeah, so like this is the type of series like Stranger Things where it's like if you don't see a body, that means that person is still alive. I think.
But there was a casket, so was there not a body in the casket?
Didn't see it.
Anyway,
I need to see like a crusty burn dude.
That was weird.
I need to see dental records.
So
coroner's report.
We finally get past that, and then Dom investigates the scene where she gets murdered. And then they just show the full car crash, and Dom uses his magical car crash instincts to his superpower is I know how cars crash and what types of cars crash and what's in those cars when they crash.
Yeah. He, like I said, he just like Aragorned like, oh, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Like, what? What? No, you didn't.
Yeah, so Dom has superpowers, which is cool.
So he didn't know that Paul Walker was a cop, but he can just sort of like...
He would have known that if Paul Walker had been a cop during a car crash. He's like, and then that's when you got T-boned, and you're a police officer. He's like, how did you know? You crashed. So... they murdered Letty off screen and then had Dom have this ridiculous power instead of doing what they should have done. Show the car crash, show the murder, and then Dom goes to the site and sees something and goes like, oh, I think I knew who this was because, only certain people use this, whatever, injector fluid. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the whole thing where, like you said, he Aragorns it, like, fuck that. Fuck that to death.
Yeah, that was bullshit. I mean, this was clearly a point where they were like, listen, we can totally just make this into a franchise. We'll just slap numbers at the end. Like, so they were definitely trying to transition the series into being like mystery solving kind of heist stuff as opposed to just sort of being like community case study, like the first one, which is just sort of focused on like a particular group of people in LA. Like you can tell basically a lot of these things are just sort of like setting up tropes for later on in the franchise.
Yeah, and like that's the other thing is like the thing that I liked about Tokyo Drift is that it picked an established movie formula and just inserted cars into it. And this one, I mean, it tried to do a similar thing with like a drug infiltration, film. I've heard this compared to Heat, but like saying like it's car heat only if heat were bad. Um, and I don't know Heat well, so I can't speak to that. But it sounds true because this feels like they're going for some sort of like, undercover cop thing, like The Departed, but with cars.
Yes.
The Discarded. And it just sucked. Because I didn't care about anyone. There was a needless twist as to the bad guy was the guy we knew all along.
Right. Who was also a bad guy.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we have Phoenix, who is played by Laz Alonso from The Boys. I don't know if you watched The Boys on Amazon, but he's great as Mother's Milk on The Boys. And then in this, he just plays like a stereotype who keeps trying to kill people for reasons. Like he kills Letty, and then he tries to kill Dom and Paul. And he's wholly uncharming.
Yo,
and this whole movie, like Gal Gadot's all right, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel are all right, but everybody else is just, who gives a shit?
Did you remember that hillbilly guy who was super into feet?
Yeah.
What was that about?
I was gonna say Paul Walker just swatted the foot fetish guy.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. That's how people get murdered, guy.
Yeah.
And
he was white.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
but cops don't know that. They just
they're going to offer him a job in the FBI if the series is like any indication.
You're into feet? We got a job for you.
Yeah. You have two choices. You can either be in the FBI or you can go to Japan and go to a prestigious high school.
And he's 42. He's like, Japan?
Yeah. Just like the last guy who was in his 30s. This was just sort of like, how do we fill in space between like car sequences? I guess there's plot. I guess there's things that happen. Like Mia's character arc is hilarious because if you remember when we talked about her in 1 and 2, that they position her as being kind of like outside and above this kind of stuff, that she sort of like transcends the sort of like low life kind of
like Dom is keeping
petty
her
crime
out of
culture.
He's like, I'll wallow in the dirt so we can live good, but you study those books and become a nurse or a doctor or something.
And so then we get introduced to her again, and like we don't know what she does, but anyway, that she's like, Paul Walker, you're a dick because you lied to everybody that I know, and you double crossed my brother, and then you like totally ghosted me. And he was like, yeah. And she's like, never mind. And he's it's like, fine. Sweet. And then she's like, at the end, like participating in a fucking car heist. Have we even seen her drive like a fucking like Corolla?
We've never seen her drive anything. She walked to go get groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. Like what a stupid arc for this character. Like I said, everyone just gets retconned. Everyone gets retconned now that they have like an idea with Fast and Furious that like now it's going to be a different type of franchise.
Yeah, and I think there's one more pivot to come, and it's the pivot in the next movie. And from all accounts, like these movies on Rotten Tomatoes 1 through 4 are not good. It's like 50s, 30s, 20s. Like none of these are good. And then the next movie, at least the last time I checked, was like high 70s on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a giant jump in a 5th episode of the series. That's not something that normally happens. But I think they make one more pivot, and we're going to have to see if we agree to it. But they just turn it into a superhero franchise based around cars.
I'm curious.
And Mike, this is why we're doing the Furiously Fast Film Fest, is because people love these fucking movies. And having seen the first 4, I still don't know why. None of these movies has been as good as either Rush Hour movie we watched.
I agree. I mean, with all the things that we've talked about, I do not think we are the audience for these movies.
That's
what I would wager to say.
The audience for these movies is huge. Like,
Right.
these are some of the biggest movies in the world.
Right.
I like a Chris Nolan film. I like Marvel movies. Like, I like cars going fast.
Like, let me give you another example.
I don't know why I'm not loving these movies, but I'm hoping it's because the pivot is coming.
I mean, I think you just like to be challenged or entertained, and you also like to be kind of like respected as an audience member, that you're watching something that is sort of like cohesive and like created in good faith, and these don't seem to be those things. But like, here's another example, like Big Bang Theory, which I was joking about earlier, like won Emmys, one of like the biggest sitcoms of all time. I don't think I know a single person who's ever like seen an episode of that show. Do you?
Yeah, my parents, they have
They have the
Big
board
Bang
game.
Theory board game.
Yeah.
You're sitting in my dad's office looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know people who've seen that series, but
well, I'm saying that there's ways that, like, even though it's mass culture, it can totally skew towards like a particular group. Even if it seems like mass culture, it's not. So I think I just don't think that these movies are being directed at us. I think one thing that we could think about for the next 4 movies is to think about who this is being directed to, and like how different tropes are being deployed in order to resonate with particular audiences.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing that I have written down in my notes here is that in real life, people do irrational things.
I'm ready. Go ahead.
In real life, people do irrational things.
Yes.
And that's why we watch movies, is because characters in movies don't usually do irrational things. There's motivation behind action. So even when they do the wrong thing, usually we understand why they did the wrong thing. It's not irrational. It's just a poor choice.
I think that's a good way to think about it. And also that, like, to extend it further, there are times where movies require that a character holds the idiot ball and like does something out of character, but it is still generally kind of like explained
usually
or even lampshaded.
Mask that by like, oh, he's blinded by rage,
right.
Or he walks in on his girlfriend in a compromised situation. It's usually like an act of passion, an act, that they haven't fully thought through. That's why I don't like Paul Walker in these films, is because he keeps doing irrational things. And I don't know
why. Yeah, I don't know what his goal is.
Like,
I don't know what anybody's goal is.
If the directors of these films want to be like, that's how real life works, I don't want to see real life. I want to see cars going really fast. Like, the action sequences are not real life. So give me a not real life character that does rational things.
See, I like that you took it here, because I wasn't thinking about it this way, but now I am. Like let's take a Disney movie, for example. Like a classic Disney musical, like from the Renaissance era. This is a trope in all musicals, but it's a great point of contrast that in any Disney musical, in the opening song, we're introduced to the main character and the supporting cast. We're given a sense of everybody's particular motivations, and we understand what the main character's goal is. So like, everything is introduced and laid before you in the beginning, and people are going to work within those constraints for the remainder of the movie. It's entirely transparent, and there's nothing wrong with transparency. That's where like the conflict and the ability for the audience to follow along comes from. So the kind of motivations and goals of all of the characters in these movies is opaque, both because they're not consistent across movies, but also because those types of things aren't really being prioritized within the scripts and within the storytelling itself.
So here's hoping that 5 through 9, we do a couple of things going forward. I think I'm hopeful that the effects and car stunts are just going to continue to get better, which is...
I'm sure they are, yeah.
What I would hope for.
Yeah.
And that, 3, I felt like escalated it in a good way, and 4 brought it back down a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I just want... So Dom kind of gets redeemed, goes to jail, pleads guilty, and then they break him out. I'm fine with that, because he did the right thing and stood trial and ended up going to jail. And if his buddies think that's unjust and break him out, fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I get that. That makes way more sense than Paul Walker just letting him go in the first movie.
Yeah.
So now that he is a criminal on the loose, but is a good guy for the first time in these fucking films, I hope that they keep going with that. Like, that they're, the dirty, Harry, who's gonna do it his way, but is doing, justice, even though it's breaking the law. Like, that's fine. That's what I want. And I just want characters to make rational decisions all the time. That's it. That's all I want. There's too much stupid choices because the plot determines that that's what needs to happen. There's too many giant fucking plot holes. We just tighten everything up, and throw the rock in it, and just let's see where it goes. All right, Mike, that does it for our second episode of the Furiously Fast Film Fest. Of course, next week we are covering Fast 5 and Furious 6. And while that does it for this episode, those of you listening along can always head over to subjecttoblackout.com to reach us or to find links to all of our socials, including Instagram, Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on any of those. And lastly, you can find Mike on Instagram and Twitter at NameTakenPodcast. Mike, I want to thank you for hanging out with me again.
I am looking forward to 5 and 6, I guess.
We shall see.
I'm at least looking forward to our discourse.
As always, until next time.